All right, y'all, we're live. Okay, y'all. This is going to be another good interview. Not, every interview so far has been great, if I do say so myself, and it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the people that we're bringing on here. And if you haven't noticed, y'all, you see a theme. I'm not going to tell you what it is necessarily at this point, but I'm kind of been weaving a tapestry with the people that we've had on lately, and there's always been some sort of um, well, there's a component of a number of things, but you're gonna maybe today's guest, Brian, aka Flannel Farms, is gonna help make peace of confusion regarding some of that. So, with that said, Brian, hey, great to have you on, bro.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. And you being an old radio man, I thought maybe we should do like a monster truck rally intro. You know, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. This Sunday, the Big
I
Daddy of
gotta be honest.
permaculture. Oh, sorry.
No, no, bro, you're right. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm always fighting it because whenever I do something like this, there's always that compulsion that in radio you always feel the compulsion to want to put butts in seats because you're always, you got to get out, you got to get viewers, you got to.
Got to get
So
the
I would
sale
do
going.
things. Yeah, yeah, you got to keep it going. It's all about advertising, and man, it's a struggle, but it's also freeing to be able to do this because knowing that in this forum, the only thing that can happen is you say something that the powers that shouldn't be don't like, and then they pull the plug on you. So, it's not like there's any great consequence. But with all that said, um, it is a real joy to have Brian on today. I keep wanting to call you Sean, man, and the reason why, before we get into it, I saw you in one of the last interviews you did, and you're wearing the slowly shirt like
Yeah,
I have.
yeah. Yep.
And all you people look the same to me anyway. So I'm sitting here. So
I'll tell you that the main difference between myself and Sean is he wears the appropriate clothing for what he does. He's got the Carhartt coveralls. He's got his, and I am out here like in stained up khakis I got from Goodwill and a ratty T-shirt with a flannel cap on. Sean is he's a great guy. He really is. But his hair is significantly shorter. So if you ever see, I have all this up here, and Sean has a much more practical hairstyle.
no, that's all good, man. I'm all about those practical hairstyles. But if you want to go with the Buster Poindexter thing, I'm down with that too, bro.
It's the Lucy, that's the the Ricky Martin
I like
Ricky
it, man.
Martin.
I like it, man. If I were to do something like that, man, it kind of stays in the fro. I look like Gumby. It kind of so you have the benefit of being able. I can't get my hands right on this camera.
Yeah.
You have the benefit of being able to make it look like something. Mine looks like I'm just Gumby or as fat as I've got.
No kidding.
Look like Grimace on.
As a kid, I always wanted to know how Theo Huxtable had his hair go straight up. I had no idea that there were differences. I kept going in the mirror and I'd do this and it'd fall down. I'd do this and it'd fall. I could not figure out how he got his hair so cool, man.
Hey, that's how we roll, man. But hey, bro, it's if anybody hasn't checked him out, first of all, as soon as you can, check out Brian at Flannel Farms. I was introduced to him a while back. He reached out to me, and we had a little discussion on his channel. And I was watching your videos as soon as you reached out to me, and I was like, man, this guy's doing some pretty cool stuff with scrap materials. But before we get into all that, I mean, you do some pretty cool. You make it look better than I ever could, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I want you to give a little background of yourself. I mean, tell everybody about who you are, where you came from,
Sure.
and maybe we can arrive at some point of how because it's a really pretty cool testimony. So lay it on me, bro.
Well, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ who saved me from my sins, and if you don't know about that, we'll talk about some hope later for that. I'm the husband of one wife. I have 3 kids. We homeschool our children. I was raised by 2 loving parents who homeschooled us. I have 5 younger sisters, an older brother. They have spouses and nieces and nephews out the wazoo. I also am an ordained minister, but I don't have a congregation per se. I'm kind of a minister at large, if you will. And I have a 15-acre homestead that we just got back in August. I, for a full-time job, happened to be a firefighter paramedic at a fairly local medium-sized city. It's about 55 miles away from where I reside. And I have a small stump grinding business, and we happen to have a little YouTube channel called Flannel Farms. And I've been married 18 years now to the 19. Is it?
You're
we
in
got
trouble,
married in
bro.
04. Huh? I think this is the 19th. We've been married for 18. 18. See, I was right. Woo! That's how I've been married so long, is every now and then I'm right. But we got married in 04, had some kids, and the 08 recession hit. And I won't get into a whole lot of details, but everything that I was good at collapsed. Everything that I was qualified for and knew how to do, nobody wanted to pay for anymore. I had been in retail sales. I had sold cars. I had been in hospitality, construction, various things. I could list a few more, but it doesn't matter to the story. And my wife was pregnant with our first child, and she ended up having to go to work full time because she had finished her degree in education. Gas prices hit $5 a gallon in Georgia. We lived 30 miles outside of town. We had a 1979 F-150. You know, we bought a house we shouldn't have bought, not because it was an expensive house. It wasn't, far from it. But we weren't making enough money to afford it. It was just a little, $72,000, 1,000 square foot, nothing in the middle of nowhere that needed work. And we thought we were good because the bank said, hey, you qualify. And we said, great, let's buy a house. In 2 years, it'll be worth 20% more because that's what had been happening. And this is how you build wealth. And what we ended up having to do was short selling it and living in an apartment. And I can't tell you how many nights, we paced back and forth and did not know how we were going to eat or pay bills or do whatever. And debt piled upon debt, because if the only way you could buy groceries was with a credit card, well, then you bought groceries. I mean, that's just what you did. And so we ended up in a small apartment in a socioeconomically depressed part of town, and just worked our way through. And God was gracious to us to allow us the work ethic and the desire to not just accept it. And so we worked hard. And a few years later, I found out about the fire department, and I was in college trying to get some sort of degree so I could get some piece of paper that somebody would allow me to have a job. Because back then there was, if you remember, I'm sure you do, there were people with master's degrees working at, McDonald's and Walmart.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
not like it is now where you can go out and get a job, doing just about anything from anybody, because there was not a labor shortage. So found a place, and Newport News, Virginia said they would hire me. And so 11 years ago, we packed up everything we had, and which was not much, and moved 700 miles to a place that my wife had never seen, to a house she'd never looked at, to a place where we had no family, no connections, no nothing, because for the first time in our lives, we made $140, not first time in our lives, first time in 5 years or so, we'd made $140 more than our bills a month. $140 was, so all our bills were paid, groceries, gas, everything else, and we made $140, and we thought we had arrived. I kid you not, the relief, because it had been 4 years of struggle and trying to make it. And so that was roughly 11 years ago. And not to sound any type of way, because everything that we have we're stewards of, and the Lord has been gracious enough to let us have for the time that we're here. So we don't own anything, even though the house is in my name and the cars are in our names, but we see ourselves as stewards. In the past 11 years, we bought a broken down house, we fixed it up, we turned it into a rental, we moved out, we bought another house, we ended up selling that house. And so we are currently in a position where we owe nothing on cars, nothing on credit cards, no student debt. I have one fully paid for house. In our current house, we have a mortgage on, but the only debt that we have is on our current house, which is our homestead, which if we sold our other house, I could probably pay off. So in 11 years, we went from owing tens of thousands of dollars and 140 more to where we are now. And I don't say that, like I said, in a braggadocious manner. I say that because some of you might be in the position that I was now in 08, where I had no means of income. My wife made $1,700 a month as a professional teacher in the Georgia school systems. Okay, it was trash. We couldn't live on it. So if you're watching this going, I don't know how I'm going to survive, I don't know what next week holds. If I blow a tire, my budget shot, I have been where you are. And if you're careful and God is gracious, you'll get out of it if you hate being there more than you like other things. And I guess what I mean by that is if you can give up things that make your life more comfortable and maybe more enjoyable to get out of that place where you are a slave to debt, it is completely worth it, and it will happen faster than you think it will. I'm telling you, as somebody who has ridden one of these waves, and the first one just crushed us. I mean, that '08 thing set us back, 5, 6, 7 years, if not more. We were not foolish with money. We were not trying to live high on the hog. We weren't trying to keep up with anybody or buy we shopped at thrift stores. We went to there was a frozen meat locker there that you could buy, I don't know, recycled meat isn't the right term, but, stuff that they wouldn't give to a food shelter, they took to this place and they sold it for, 50 cents a pound frozen. You got whatever was in this bag. Here you go. So we were trying, but if you don't make enough, it doesn't matter, So now we're in a slightly different, the society, are in a different position with the labor markets and the inflation. But the idea is the same. If you owe people money and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you are fragile to exterior forces. Now, I don't care how much money you do or don't have. We're all fragile to exterior forces. So, I can step out this door and have a heart attack, and all the best laid plans of mice and men are shot. So none of this provides me security. The security comes from my faith in Christ and the eternal home that he is preparing for me. And I am working hard to be a free person to pursue kingdom work for God. So that's the reason that we're trying to get out of the debt and to be anti-fragile and to not owe people money, is because those are good biblical principles. And even if you don't believe in biblical principles, not owing money is a good thing. So there's biblical principles that apply to people even if you don't believe in Christ. But the eternal hope is where we're trying to store up our treasure. So we're trying to be as not tied down here to things that demand my attention so that I can be free to do those other things. Hope that wasn't too much of a
No, I'm glad
too long of a ramble.
No, you're more succinct than you realize, and you're almost jumping the gun to where I wanted to head the direction of this program tonight, and it's a good thing, Brian. And the reason why is because so many people, as of late, whether it's in the videos we provide, whether it's in the emails that I get, and some of them are just really, really tough to read. People that are. I was like you in '08, man. The only job I could find through '08 and '09 was in third world countries. And I'm a journeyman electrician, IBEW trained journeyman electrician, talk radio host. And I was wearing a lot of hats at that time, believe me. And we found ourselves in the same position. It was the worst. It was the lowest low of my life. Well, I've had some pretty good lows, but that was definitely in competition. But it's funny because you, me, other people our age, there's a great many of us that suffered dearly that year. And like I said, it was a really rough time for me too. In fact, I seldom talk about it. But what I love about your testimony and your story is so many people, you could not be the more perfect person to have on right now. Like there's a number, like the Homestead pastor, when he was on here, talked about their troubles. He's my pastor and my friend, a true friend, actually. And Danny from Deep South, he was on, a little while back, and he was talking about basically he was destitute as well. The young man I had on last week, not so much. He's still starting out, but guess what? It was in '08 that his dad was an engineer, lost everything. So you can see this tapestry that's being formed throughout these interviews, folks. There's a point I'm trying to get at here. Is it's one thing to hear a perspective, at least from me, but you're hearing it from a bunch of other people that were all affected by things in the past, and we're all being affected by it now. So I'm trying to provide a little bit of hope to a lot of you folks out there that are saying to me, I don't know what to do. And sadly, and when I had Bobby Spags on here a while back, I'm sorry to monologue so long, but it's important I point this out. There's a lot of you guys out there that are acquiescing. The other day, Homestead pastor was wearing the same shirt I got on that says "Make men men again," and I'm seeing a lot of women out there that are taking on the chore of seeing to their families for these times that we know are going to be tough. And so, guys, I mean, get loose or get lost. That doesn't mean leave your family. That means stand up and start being a man.
That's
So, with
right.
that said, you got yourself out of it, and you got yourself into a new career.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
let's kind of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say it's my wife actually made that point earlier because we were discussing what we were going to talk about tonight, and she said if you're trying to get out of debt and do those things, your spouse better be on board. Whichever one of you runs the books in the house, you better be on board, because if I can only speak to the men because my wife runs the books. Okay, I have a Proverbs 31 wife. She is fantastic. I don't have to worry about money because she tells me how much we have. Not in an allowance type, you have $40, don't spend any more type way, right? But she is one of the reasons why we have what we have. I have a good work ethic. Money is boring to me. It just is. The details are boring to me. I'm happy to go make it, but I don't pay attention to who's supposed to get what at what time. It just bogs me down, and I don't like it. And my wife, bless her, in many ways, is an administrative extraordinaire. So she has budgets down to the nth degree, and I typically ruin them. So this is not a wonderful this guy doing stuff. So this was a team effort. But the other thing we did is we got the new career, and I made myself as valuable as I could in that new career. Anything that paid more, I went and got. Any cert that paid me more, I went and got. And as soon as I maxed that out, I got a part-time job. So I was working roughly 56 hours a week in the fire department, and then I would go work 36 hours every, I think it was 8 days at the local hospital. And then she got a job part-time while homeschooling our kids and trying to pay off debt and manage the house, teaching adult ed. That I think it was 5 years ago, she went up to, I think it was almost 30 hours a week. And so we were, I mean, it wasn't just, I got a new job and it was better, and then we slowly paid off debt. I mean, there was, making hay while the sunshine, hustling, there were some sleepless times. And then we were fixing a broken house and, trying to build a relationship with the people around us and trying to find a church and trying to homeschool our kids. So it was not just, I found a new career and everything was hunky dory. There's a whole lot that went into that. But I turned 40 next month, and we were never sure if we were ever going to be able to live on a property like this and raise our kids out here in the woods. And my oldest is just turning into the teen years, and my youngest is about to hit double digits, and they're out here driving tractors and having a great time. So don't despair, don't give up hope, but you might have to work twice as hard as the guy who came behind you, or maybe the guy in front of you. I don't even know. Maybe somebody bought a house and flipped it right. They hit it right, and bammo, they're 10 years younger than you, and they're sitting pretty, and you're not. That's not up to you. Your circumstances aren't up to you. So you were put in the place you were put for a reason. So, get out there and be about what you're supposed to be doing, whatever circumstance you might be in. That's the place you're supposed to be.
Now, I want to hit into this. I want to kind of move into the preparedness thing. Like I said, so many ladies are hitting me up, whether through email or otherwise. And ladies, I feel for you. And also there's guys out there saying that, but not nearly as many. It's usually the ladies. Right now, to say that it was, man, I really don't want to say what I honestly think about what's going on right now, but I don't know any way to get around it. I think we're headed for the greatest depression, okay? Maybe 08 was something of a primer for us to be prepared for what's likely to come. At least some of us that went through it and at least learned something about it, because by and large, the guys I worked with went right back. As soon as they got jobs, things got good. I put that in quotations. They went right back to the same idiotic spending habits that got them in the position in the first place. And like you, my wife, very same thing, man. I'm telling you what, I laugh about it sometimes. I told her, look, if it took a nickel to use a public restroom, she'd just throw up. He's that cheap, man. I mean,
when she pinches a penny, it screams, huh?
I'm telling you, man, it's legit. But she also manages. We all have our strengths, and like you, I'm ambivalent about money. But here we are in this time where I think we're heading into the greatest depression. We have everybody, from yourself to everybody I know, in some way or another. And I know Homesteading Pastor recently did a video of it. Danny from Deep South is doing it every other week. I'm doing it as often as I can. And the nature of the videos I've been putting together as of late have been things like instant gardens, chicken tractor on steroids, means in which you can feed your family and do it on the cheap, because I think you're going to have to. Now, you said a moment ago that you're driving, if I heard you right, you said like 55 miles to work one way, right?
Yeah, it's about an hour and 20 minutes one way.
Okay, given the gas prices right now, because there was a person I know that was talking to a person that was working at McDonald's, and she's saying basically, this ain't making no sense anymore. Why am I going to get up, put gas in the tank to go for a job, and then be in the hole by the time I get home? So how do you reconcile that, living so far from your place of employment? How do you intend to do that? Because I want to get into solutions here.
Yeah. Thankfully, I work 10 days a month in the fire department. So it averages out to 56 hours a week, but I work a 24-hour shift. If I did not work a 24-hour shift, I would not live this far away. The other thing we've done is, and people will laugh, I mentioned this in one of my videos, though, I emptied everything out of the car I didn't need, and I inflated the tires, and I check them regularly. And the speed limit out here on the highway, because I live not near an interstate, but it's a rural highway, is up to 60, 65 miles an hour in a few places. I hit 55 miles an hour and I hit cruise control and I let it do its thing. There's little things you can do to make it better. But our gas bill, I think 2 months ago, all told, so that includes my tractors, my, everything, was around $1,000. And that just, it blew my mind. I filled up my 3 5-gallon gas tanks and put the rest, and the rest wasn't much, into my truck that I have, my farm truck, $140. So I don't run my tractors right now. I mean, if I have to, I'll use it as briefly as possible. I love my tractors. I've always wanted tractors. I just got my tractors. And I like pushing trees down. I like rolling around on them. Just they're fun. I'm a big kid out here having a good time. But I'm not using the tractors right now unless I have to. So when I butchered the pig the other day, I used it as briefly as possible. But certain things like that just had to stop. We have changed a few things. So, I get groceries, or she'll get groceries on the way back in from church. So we go to church. It's still pretty far away. We'll get groceries on the way back. You consolidate as many trips as you can. And we're doing our best. And we got it down to, I think it was 600 last month. And the gas prices haven't gotten any cheaper in the past 2 months. So that was through a very concerted effort of reducing trips. But of course, we were still setting up the homestead. We still are. So we would, if you have to go an hour away to pick up a piece of equipment, we were doing that. But we stopped buying equipment. Like we've just consolidated, shut down. Here's where we are, and make it as simple as we can. I have a 2016 Ford Escape little 4-banger, so it gets roughly 32 or 33 miles to the gallon on the highway. So that's basically how I can afford to drive back and forth, because again, it's 10 days a month. When overtime is available, I will sign up for it, because I will end up just staying there at work. So because an overtime shift for us is a 24-hour shift. So sometimes I stay at work for 72 hours in a row. But that eliminates a trip back and forth, and I get overtime. So there's some of these decisions that have to be made. The downside of that is I don't get things done around here. I'm away from my family for 72. And on a smaller scale, I don't get to film things and get them out to people. So there's sometimes where there's a 3, 4, 5 day gap between videos. You might see a lot of shorts popping up because I'm trying to give something to let everybody know that we haven't died. We're still here, but I don't have time to put together a 10, 15-minute video and all the edits and everything else because I'm not here. I still have that job. So it's tough. And we even talked about if gas prices get up to $6-7 a gallon, we might end up having to find a church that's even closer to where we are. And some extracurricular activities like music lessons and some of the things we're trying to do, because we homeschool, so we try and put some of the things back into the kids. Some of those things just might have to get cut, and I might just be driving into work and just driving home, and every stop in between is what you have to do. So there's definite lifestyle changes that are happening, and more are coming.
Hey, y'all, real quick, sorry about the shaky camera right now. Hey, if you're just getting in, if you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up. Helps whatever the algorithms are. It's a fancy word. I have no idea what it means. I just know that other people get to see this video. So I'm really hoping people get to hear a lot of what you're saying. Hey, and thanks so much, y'all, for spending your evening with us. Hacks for the Homesteader. My man Darren over there in Kansas. Ladies Farm, yeah, they're in Kentucky. I know there's a whole lot of folks that came in and out of here I haven't had a chance to say hi to, but
No,
thank you so
that's
much.
what I have here. This is my all the chat going. I wasn't ignoring anybody or looking down to see what my stock prices are doing.
Yeah.
I was I'm just trying to read the chats. The stock market's a sham. But anyways.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, when I said we're heading for the Greatest Depression, if I saw you right, I thought you were maybe shaking your head. So, what are you doing?
So, well, I don't think they fixed
doing?
08. So
well,
I
let
think they kicked the can down. But go ahead.
No, I totally agree in every way imaginable. And I think instead of dealing with what was going on then, they made what they've turned whatever that was going to be into an utter calamity, and we're seeing it. In fact, today I had to go into Asheville. I go into town once a week to get the feed I need to feed my pigs and chickens, and that's usually all food scraps. So usually when I'm there, I do whatever running around I got to do, and I spend more time in the city, and I start wanting to pull my hair out. What little of it I have. Now, check this out, Brian. I'm over there at Sam's Club, pushing through there, and I just got to get a few things. And as I'm going through there, I always make sure I go buy rice and beans.
Yep.
Check this out, bro. Well, first of all, the first thing I noticed that everybody's cart had toilet paper in it, which I don't understand, but I get over there and I look at the beans let me back up. I look at the rice. A 50-pound bag a month ago was $17. I kid you not. When I rolled in there today, in fact, I even posted it on Truth Social, the picture of the price. It literally went up $2 in a month. Same thing with beans. And those are like, I think, 12-pound bags of beans they got over there. It went up $2 too. Yep. Now, I'm looking at all the people to my left and right. They all got toilet paper. I don't know. I don't know what you intend to do with it, in light of what's coming. Can't eat it. Exactly. So, which brings me to my next point. I understand you have a farm. You have animals. Yes. What are you doing? Because I'm trying to, they hear my perspective all the time and maybe a little too much. What are you doing to hedge yourself? I understand that regarding fuel. What are you doing to hedge yourself for what is almost certainly coming in terms of food for your family? And then maybe let's get into the food for your animals.
Sure. I mean, and it go hand in hand, right? Because we eat the animals. I have one cat that doesn't really have any purpose other than being a cat. That was a pet we moved here with. And my son bought 2 parakeets around his birthday for that. Other than that, everything here is a working animal. So, we just harvested our last pig. We did 5 pigs this year. Thank you for your butchering video. That's how I ended up finding you. And that meat grinder you recommended works brilliantly.
Oh, great.
So we actually invested when we first got here into packaging equipment, processing equipment, and into the ability to have the animals. And then we bought animals, and I currently have about 35 laying birds. And then we have 2 turkeys that are still living. And we have 20 or so chicks in various stages of development. And I have 47 roosters that we're fixing to harvest this week. So what we're doing is we have Premier One electric net, and we have solar brains so that I'm not dependent on the grid, so I can keep my animals that way. And I have a generator that will run my well and run my freezers as needed. But we have a lot of woods here. So what we're doing is we're moving the animals around the different wooded areas so that they can eat as much natural stuff as they possibly can. Last year, we planted 2 acres of winter wheat and spring oats, and those are about ready to be harvested. So we're actually going to walk through and literally hand pick the heads off of these things through a lot of the area. We're going to store some of that for us. We're going to store some of it for the animals. And then the rest of it, we're actually going to mow so that it reseeds itself. So that is part of my animal feed. I actually found a guy around the corner who is feed is what he makes on his farm. He farms something like 2,300 acres. So I have locally sourced feed that's literally 7 minutes away from my house. So that back and forth is very inexpensive for me. But if that failed, I have plenty of woods where I could let things go in the woods. I have a flock of, we call her Ultra Mom. She escaped and then she laid a batch of eggs. She hatched them, and she's running around with 6 chicks in the yard. I've never fed her, never watered. They're just doing their thing, and they're getting bigger. She's going to make more. So she's just off doing her thing. If I lose them to predators, I lose some. But if we're talking true, like, economic collapse, and we're talking about a lack of infrastructure and a lack of power and a lack of, if work isn't an option anymore type thing, we're working on systems that we can rotate the animals through, that they will still survive whether we have power or not, and we're succession doing it. So I talked to Danny from Deep South. He was gracious enough to come to our channel one day, and he talked about how they currently have all of their chickens set up, and they do like one big chicken harvest for the year, and they're good. And that I love that idea, but that idea terrifies me personally, because if I harvest 100 chickens and then I lose power and then my generator explodes, I'm hosed. I can't store 100 chickens without refrigeration. I don't have barrels of salt in the backyard. There's ways you can dry and dehydrate, but guys, I just got this property in August. So while we've had backyard chickens for eggs and we've had gardens, a lot of this in earnest is very new to us. So a lot of those things we're still learning. The first thing I was trying to do was get meat in the freezer, but we're doing it in succession with the idea of those 47 roosters out there that are eating off the land for the most part. I could go pull one for dinner and leave the rest of them, because you don't have to preserve something that's already alive. It preserves itself. So we're rotating through with these small batches. The 47 is a big batch, and they're not all for us. We have families in town that we're helping to secure their food supply. But we keep hatching about 10 at a time. About every two weeks or so, we hatch 10 more, and we hatch 10 more, and we hatch 10 more. And then we'll harvest those 10, and we'll harvest those 10, and we'll harvest, and that will get us through these little kind of sections. It also doesn't overwhelm you with work. But we have planted a boatload of corn and beans as well, shelf-stable crops, things that will dry on the vine, and then you can put into a can, and you can put it into your cabinet. You had a great video from, I think it was 2 years ago, about so many months worth of food for about $100. I don't think it's quite accurate anymore, but the principles are sound, right? You had some 5-gallon buckets, you had some oxygen removers, some moisture removers, and bingo bango, you're good. So we're working on shelf-stable crops. We have a lot of potatoes planted because we eat potatoes. But one of the things we've done as a family is really adjust the way that we eat, because it doesn't do you any good to grow 4,000 pounds of beans or whatever I'm just pulling a number out. I don't know what we're going to harvest if you're not going to eat beans. So if you're not eating beans now, you won't eat them out of your garden either. So you have to start adjusting now. So we have reduced the amount of coffee we drink. We have started incorporating beans into the meals. We eat the eggs that our chickens make. So we have essentially stopped eating chicken and beef because we have pork from our own animals. So we just eat what we have. And our grocery bill hasn't changed that much year to year. So while everything else has gone up, our price has stayed the same. Meaning that we know that prices have gone up. They're saying 11%. That's rubbish. Everybody knows that's rubbish. Certain things in the grocery store. So let's take that thing of beans. If that was 20, or the rice, if that was $20 and it goes up $2, that's 20%. It's easy math, right? So rice has gone up by 20% since the last time you were at Sam's Club. So what was it last month and the month before and the month before? So we're up 20, 30, 40, who knows what percent. So the fact that our grocery bill has kind of leveled out is again a testament to my wife's ability to force feed the kids things they don't want to eat. But you have to make decisions, and one of the things, we talk about being a prepper, right? Even though the ER word is bad, you taught me that. You add ER to anything and you're crazy, right? You're a truther, you're a birther, you're a 9/11er, you're an insurrectionist, or a prepper, right? We get all lumped into the tinfoil hat people. But what you have to understand is when you're preparing, what are you preparing to save? What, not the things, right? But what are you trying to preserve? If you're trying to preserve a lifestyle and comfort, that ship might have sailed already. So, I like a comfortable bed. I like air conditioning. I like, I like nice things. They're called nice things for a reason. Who doesn't like nice things? But they're breaking the system on purpose. So stop trying to keep up with the nice things and buy quality things. Buy things that will last. That meat grinder you recommended to us was an eye-watering price. I mean, and you know that because you have one. But what is it going to cost me next year? Can I prepare my food with it? That was a worthwhile investment to me over buying a television or new ear pods or the glasses that record for social media, whatever that people are buying. How many streaming services do people have? Dump your streaming services. Stop buying cereal. Eat oatmeal. You can make oatmeal yourself. You buy a big can of oats. It's dirt cheap, and you make a couple eggs from your own flock, and you've got a nutritious breakfast that will power you through the day. Get chickens. I don't care what your HOA says. Put some chickens in your backyard. Feed them table scraps. And if you don't have enough table scraps, knock on your neighbor's door and tell them that you're into the green movement and you want to recycle, and you can take their food and you can turn it into something else. I don't care what it is. Get the sandwiches at work that people don't eat. Go to the grocery store and find out what days they chuck stuff out the back door because they throw things away, and feed your animals with that. There are things that we can do that other people might look at you and think you're nuts, but those are the people that survive things like the Great Depression that happened, and that will survive the things that are coming up. The people that can adapt quickly, and this is not just a military concept, even though I was never in the military, the fire department applies the same way, right? You have to be able to adapt your mindset. So stop trying to preserve the lifestyle we had in 2016 or 2003 or whatever, pick your year that was really good, and think, how do I feed my family and how do I survive this? One of the things we like to say is we're trying to be a cork on the ocean, right? There are economic forces at work. There are powers in the world that are at work that crush little people like us all the time, and they do it on purpose. So the best you can do is when these big waves come and these economic catastrophes are coming, is to float. Just float above it. Let it happen. Don't participate. And that sounds ridiculous, and I know it does, because you have to go to the gas pump and you have to eat. But you don't have to eat the way they say you do. You don't have to drive what they say you do. You don't have to do any of those things. And when the troughs come, you can float. You just keep floating and feeding your family and focus on the things that matter. So, yeah, I would get some chickens in your backyard, not now, right now, and get any type of garden going that you can, and start thinking about the things that you really can live without. I mean, we were talking today that coffee might cost us somewhere between $5 or $6 a week, which is more than, less than Starbucks. But do you need coffee? I mean, if I really had to, could we, I can't live without coffee. Well, then you have an idol in your life and you should get rid of it. Now, I love coffee and I'm not getting rid of it, but there are things we can do that you have to change your mindset as to what you're trying to preserve. So anyways, I'll be quiet.
I've been told regarding coffee, not been told. It reminds me of back when I was in the Army. I'll tell you what, if they didn't bring anything else that day, you better have some coffee.
Right.
And honestly, I think if you were to take away all the creature comforts, man, that's going to be the hardest one for people to deal with.
Absolutely.
Now, let me back you up a little bit, because Old Crows Homestead, they're wonderful people, by the way, and
they're awesome.
See them at that festival coming up pretty soon. But she had a good point. I think it was, if I remember right, it's already passed by, and I have strict instructions to not touch this computer when it's underway, because I'm so much of a Luddite. Anything I touch will destroy this thing. So if I remember it right, she said something about, and I think it's important, I want to cover it. She loved the idea of taking 10 of the birds and then leaving 10 back.
Yeah, that's what she said. I love the idea of hatching 10 and harvesting 10. Right.
And now I also want to point out, I'm not trying to go too far afield here, but I also want to point out that very thing can be done within the chicken tractor on steroids as well, where you can extract from that system the birds you need and constantly cycle them back in with, let's say you have a broody hen or whatever the case may be, even if you were to incubate them, whatever the case may be, you can cycle them through and still not cost you much in terms of how to do that. So also, Patty Strong, another good friend of mine, she says, basically, I know Patty. She said, you don't get the coffee, somebody's going to get murdered. So you didn't write it that way.
I deliberately hit coffee for a reason, right? Because it's a mindset. And I tell you, I have quit coffee before. Now, I have an addictive nature I'm an addictive personality by nature. So there's all kinds of things that I've had to give up. I've had to give up smoking. I've had to give up alcohol. I have quit coffee at times. So sometimes I will go all Spartan on stuff and eat like tuna fish and egg whites just for a month, just for the self-discipline of it. And so I like to poke people where where they feel it. So that's why I brought up coffee. But
No,
yes,
it's
we're growing tea in the garden because I'm going to have a caffeinated beverage. So
yeah, there's got to be something like that in some way or another. And it's funny because Patty's husband Darren, who's also I think on this live stream, when we were at the last event together down in Tennessee, we got up at about the same time. It was pretty early, and they had like a mess hall over here, a place. We weren't invited, man. We both wanted coffee so bad. We went in there and found where the coffee dispenser was, and we started making coffee in here. Well, the
yeah,
lunch lady showed up while we're in the middle of doing it, and we're like, "Hey, too late now, man. We done made
yeah,
the coffee." So,
yeah.
you know,
The only question now is, do you want a cup or?
yeah, it's like, yeah, she was. I don't think they were too happy about us being in their kitchen, but I didn't expect them to be there at 05:30 or whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but hey, bro, I want to get into I want to talk about you're covering so many awesome and wonderful things, and the last one being the meat that you've put back. Now,
Okay.
what are you doing concerning, let's say, storable crops? Or I mean, you covered some of that. I know you said you had some wheat out there and some,
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to do with it. Are you looking into any potatoes? Are you planting things on the basis of how long you can store them? Are you no doubt you're taking a number of considerations in what you're planting and how you intend to store it. You covered the
Yeah,
animals, and I think that's great. And I know you're putting a lot of it back. What are you doing in terms of the other stuff?
man. If only I had a gardening expert here somewhere. Sugar.
What do you want to talk?
I must tell you, I know a lot of you know my brother David the Good, who is an excellent gardener, and not just excellent, but is certified trained master, writes books on the subject. I am a bad gardener, and I don't mean like comparatively. It's not my cup of tea. It just isn't. I understand the necessity of it and why we do it. I can appreciate a beautiful garden. I like going through and picking the stuff. But once again, my administrative extraordinaire happens to also love gardening and plants. So I dig the hole, she puts the plants. Like I build the structures. But I will tell you roughly what we have planted because I have a rudimentary knowledge. See, I knew when I started talking, it would start to draw.
It's on. You better bring her on now.
She's putting her hair up to answer a question. Yeah, well, what they would like to know is what we are growing and why, in terms of storable crops and things.
Tomatoes, because I'm going to can the tomatoes.
Just come here. We're gonna have a surprise guest, y'all.
No, let's do it. Yes.
Mrs. Flannel. And I'm gonna
Yes,
pop this
Miss
out
Flannel.
and let me know if you can't still hear us.
No, I think that's great. Yeah. Hey, hello, Mrs. Flannel. All right,
You still
drop.
hear us?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right, go for it. Tell them what we got and why.
Okay, so I have planted 42 tomato plants. 42 because that's what fit in my space. But we eat a lot of tomato-based soups, a lot of pasta, a lot of those kinds of things. So my plan is to actually can a lot of those. Those are a lot of paste, Roma. There's some snack types too for us to eat because I really enjoy those. I planted a lot of pickling cucumbers. We're going to try to preserve those. We also like to just eat them. Pumpkins, watermelon, cantaloupes. Those are the watermelon cantaloupes we can have those for breakfast. They're a nice treat in the summertime. They don't preserve as well, but it's nice eating in the warm season. The pumpkins are going to be shelf stable. So we're going to collect those in the fall and put them on a shelf. Then I'll make pumpkin bread out of them. I'll make soups out of them, that kind of thing. I've got some zucchini that can be eaten fresh. It also can be processed and turned into a batter bread, kind of like the pumpkin can. Let's see, we have a lot of black beans, lima beans, red beans that are all going to dry on the vine. We've never done dry beans before, so we'll see how that goes. I probably have 200 or so corn plants. That's the most we've ever done. It's all a sweet corn, so it's not as good for drying and grinding down to make your own cornmeal, but we can still dry some of it and try to process it that way. We have a lot of potatoes. We'll have to see how that comes out because we've been struggling with potato beetles. But let's see, what else do we have? I have a lot of herbs that are growing, like borage and calendula and lemon bergamot and those kinds of things. And they're your basils, parsley, things that taste good.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? We're talking about like the end of the world and things, but it doesn't mean that you don't have things you enjoy. So we've been taking the raw mint and the borage and just right out of the garden, chucking them into some water, and all of a sudden you have, a virgin mojito, basically,
Lime juice.
Lime juice, but it doesn't have to be all dried beans. There are still good things that, that are tasty and fun to eat that you can pull out of your garden.
Sure. Oh, and sweet potatoes. A lot of sweet potatoes.
A lot of sweet potatoes.
Yeah. I'm sure I missed something in there, but I had a lot
it's
in there.
really astonishing. It is really astonishing how much you guys have only been there since what, August? And
Yes.
you got all this going. You just put 5 pigs in the freezer.
Yeah.
You have all this going. I mean, this is really, really, really. I thought we were moving at 1,000 miles an hour, but man, you guys are really kicking after it. It's
well,
you're giving a lot of people joy. You're giving a lot of people hope out there because there's so many people jumping into this right now. Maybe both of you can. Is Mrs. Flannel able to hear me as well?
Yeah. I took
Okay.
the headphones out. That's why you had a brief mic drop.
Okay, cool. And now I think it just gets better at this point. And the reason why, there's a lot of people that are getting into this right now. A lot of people are writing to me saying, hey, I just got out of the matrix. I extracted myself from the bottom of Plato's cave, and here I am. And you're showing them in short order, in very little time, one can actually get an up and running homestead with tons of meat in the freezer, food in the ground, and ready to go. So I can't thank you enough for doing that. So let's kind of, now that you both are here, let me play marriage counselor and let me play Dr. Bill. Okay. I'll be Dr. Bill. Okay. In these, clearly you two have had conversations about the things that are unfolding and how you're going to mitigate them. How do you reconcile that in terms of and this is a rhetorical question to a certain extent, how does your faith play into this? Okay. If you both wouldn't mind weighing in on that. I know we're coming closer to the end of this, but there is no way I'm going to get to the end of this interview without having you discuss, and where is that in there? Is it a component of your lifestyle? How much of your lifestyle does your faith play? And does it bear you any strength in these coming times? Help me out here.
It's the only thing. I mean, it is the foundation, the bedrock of all of it. So we were actually talking earlier today that, Christ said that the bird didn't sow or reap, and yet there was plenty of food, and that Solomon in all his splendor wasn't clothed like one of these fields when the flowers are blooming. And, that guy that had a really good harvest and said, I'm gonna knock down my barns and store more. God said, you fool, your soul is required of you. So you can do everything right and store everything and preserve everything and be able to live without electricity and with a stick and have 10 years worth of food stored up and die tomorrow. I mean, that's the truth of it. And you can be in an apartment right now with no ability to make food, and God can preserve you. I believe it was Elijah that was fed by the crows when he was out in the wilderness, obeying God. So God says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And we tend to think of these things in America anyways as Uber blessings and Mercedeses and Learjets, and you'll own Amazon and all that trash. And that's trash. Okay. What he was talking about was your food and your clothing. Now, we know that Christians have starved to death. It has happened. So the guarantee is that he has gone ahead to prepare a place for us. That's the guarantee. And he said, store up your treasure in heaven where moth and rust and thief don't steal and destroy. So the whole point of this, right, as a husband and a father, I am charged in Scripture to provide for my family as best as I'm able. But even the ability to have that thought comes from our Father in heaven. So if all of this comes to naught, and me and my children and wife sit in a corner and we end up starving to death, we will sing hymns as we do it, and we will go to the arms of our Savior, and we will have eternal life where there will be no more hunger or tears or anything. So that is the hope. Is not, my hope isn't in what's in the bank. My hope isn't in a rental property. My hope isn't in the meat in my freezer. My hope is that if I live according to biblical principles and do my best to further the kingdom of God, that he will allow me to complete whatever mission he has for me here until I'm called home. So living differently from the world is one of the things that we are called to do. And being a producer instead of strictly a consumer is a very different lifestyle than what people are used to, right? Knowing where your meat comes from is different. Things that were normal 150 years ago, putting up food for the winter, having chickens, knowing what to plant, being able to read the seasons based on the animals and what they're doing, these things are lost. And now we have a consumer-based, entertainment-based business or society. So just not participating in that society and honoring God through loving his creation and taking care of his creation and resting. I mean, Ecclesiastes talks about, one of the most enjoyable things is sitting at your table, eating food you made with your own hands. Having actually done that, I can tell you that's true. That is really true. Sitting around watching your family eat healthy food that you made. So yeah, the faith underpins all of it. Otherwise, this is just a life raft. That's all it is. Food in your pantry is a life raft, but God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. So we are to be wise and follow biblical principles. He's not going to suffer fools. There's all kinds of examples in scriptures where people disobeyed him and there were terrible consequences that happened. I think that's part of what's happening to our culture now. Is we've been, slaughtering innocent children and having wars overseas, and we have neglected the God of our founding, and he's not going to honor a country that doesn't honor him, doesn't care what it says in the, on the money. It's just not where we're at anymore as a society. So we have to stop being so American and be more kingdom-minded eternally. And now here's her.
Mrs. Flannel. Mrs. Flannel, what do you got to say to that?
My answer's short and simple. I just am thinking of an example the other day. I got up early before the sun was out and it was really hot, picking beetles off my potato plants, And as I'm picking beetles off my potato plants, all I could think was that how much I depend on him to make it work. I need all of the right pieces. I need the right weather. I need the right rain. I need the right amount of bugs that will eat the bad bugs. I need all this whole balance. I can't do anything about. I can work on my soil, but there's so many other elements that I can't fix. I can't do that. I need him to provide for me. So as I'm picking beetles, like, Lord, please bless our efforts.
Yeah.
Can we be a blessing to others? Can we be an encouragement to others? You can do a lot. We can do a lot. And I think we have become very accustomed to a certain way of life that requires a lot of sitting and typing and watching things, so to get out and actually work and produce something, it's hard. It's hard, but it is very rewarding. And I think in a very real way makes you really think about who your help is. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. So
good night, man. You guys are laying it down. It's I'm glad Mrs. Flannel decided to join us. Maybe one of these days I'll get to know your real name. But Mrs. Flannel, it's quite well. Hey, before I know we're going to have to wrap it up here before too long. I got pigs right over on that mountain over there that I got to feed after a while. But I want to cover two real quick things. First of all, where did the name Flannel Farms come from? And also tell them about your YouTube channel. What are you doing there? What are you focused? What are your goals?
Yeah, we make a mess mostly. So about this time last year, actually, we started a small stump grinding business, me and a friend of mine in town, and we all had been wearing flannel for a while. Just one Thanksgiving, everybody showed up wearing flannel, and apparently he used to have like flannel parties. His family, like everyone would show up wearing flannel. And I like chainsaws and trees and tree work and wood, and my grandfather was a master carpenter, so
It's a regular lumberjack.
that's the thing, right? Lumberjacks wear flannel. So for the stump grinding business, we named it Flannel Guys because there was two of us. We wore flannel, so we have a little logo and stuff. And when we moved out here, I had wanted to name the place off of a play on our last name, but she felt it was a bit too cheesy.
On the nose.
Too much on the nose, you know. It's not quite sophisticated enough for the people, you know. They're not going to accept this name.
Oh dear boy.
You know, and so we had to come up with something off the wall. So anyway, so we already had Flannel Guys, and that's what I had named the channel originally, was Flannel Guys, and we were going to document our effort, kind of like the Kramer Life did, where they were trying to find their property. We were trying to earn enough money to go buy the property. And the Lord opened some doors for us, and like bingo bango, 3 months later, we're on a farm. And it was like, well, what do we do now?
We're supposed to farm.
I guess we farm. So since I already had Flannel Guys, I just switched it to Flannel Farms, and then I went and bought my little Elmer Fudd hat, and because I realized that wearing flannel in the summer is stupid. But
They're just the cutoffs.
you have to stay stay on brand. So that's where the name came from, and what we're trying to do in the channel is the main thing we're trying to do is encourage people. So even if you're not trying to do this type of lifestyle, if you've always wanted to and wondered what it's like for a couple of city kids to go out into the woods with an axe and see if they can make food, here we are.
I'm growing it today.
Yeah. So that's part of it. But what we really want to do is to encourage people to try something. And I don't care if it's homesteading. I don't care if it's paying off debt. I don't care if it's fixing your sink. I don't care. One of our subscribers, Bill Elrod, he's a great guy. I did a little thing about buying tools and how if you buy a tool, even if you don't know how to use it, if you learn how to use it, you'll never have to buy it for the next job again. And you can save money. And if you don't have to hire the person to fix it and you fix it yourself, the second time you have to fix something, it's much cheaper. He went and built a wooden gate for his property all by himself. And he said it took him like 3 days, but it was one of the most satisfying things he's ever done. This man has grown children and is a brilliant gardener, very good at seeds, but just never really had that extra oomph from anybody to go, you can build a gate. I don't care if you've never done it before. Go try it. I mean, this is the worst that could happen. No, I'm just kidding. It's still there. But so we want to encourage people to, we homeschool our kids. That's a huge part of what we want to encourage people to do. Pull them out of the school system, get them away from Caesar. You can do it. You can do it. Nobody has the patience to do it. It's a lie. Anybody says, I don't have the patience to homeschool my kids. Nobody does. Nobody does. Kids are hard and they're worth it.
And it's a way to refine you.
Yeah, it's finishing school for you as a grown-up. Making your own food is hard. Now, I will say we have been here since August, and she and I are wired differently than a lot of people in very many ways. Some of them are good, but we don't necessarily recommend people try and keep up with our pace because we're slightly insane, and we have seen people burn out trying to not necessarily keep pace with us, but you think, well, they can do it, I can do it. Some of you might be able to, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone. I just want you to be realistic. We've had chickens for 15 years off and on. We did rabbits for a while. We had goats, and these were all kind of interspersed over time through the 18 years that we've been married.
It just feels so long.
That's what happens when you marry a good partner. It's time flies when you're suffering. So it's not, we weren't completely inexperienced. We've been reading books. We went to see Polyface Farms. We watched a boatload of YouTube videos. So what we're trying to show is that, yes, you can do it. Whatever it is you're trying to do, you might have to adjust your thought process. You might have to adjust your entire lifestyle, but if it's something you want to do, it's worth doing. So get out there and be about it. sitting around is not going to make it happen. The land doesn't just appear. It's not getting cheaper. You're going to have to work it. There's just things you have to do.
A friend of ours at church has decided that they can't live in the city right now. They need to do that for work and different things. Half their yard is a garden. That's what they've decided to do. So, and they're doing a great job with it. Every year she adds a little bit more, to try to do a little bit more. She's going to try to can this year. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can do a little more. People can do a little more than they think they can.
One of our friends, Integrity and Intention to His Faith, says, I was married in 2004. I feel your pain. And Susie says, my uncle used to say, you get less time for murder, referring to how long he'd been married to my lovely aunt. One of our things we like to say around here is you have to do something all day. You do. The time you have to do something. So is it productive? And that doesn't mean work your fingers to the bone. Spending time with your kids or homeschooling or
we went to an art festival.
We went to an art festival. Yeah, we took the time off and went to an art festival. Ministering to people, raising food for other people, this place has turned into a revolving door. I tell people, hey, I got a farm, and everybody comes out. And I am trying to know what I'm doing, but I am far from, giving conferences and workshop type level. We have so much to learn still, but people just come out and we say, hey, hang out. We're going to kill a pig today. You want to try and scrape some skin off? Let's see how this goes. Here we go.
Come be weird with us.
Come be weird with us. Yeah. And it's funny to see how many people are refreshed when they're leaving who people know something's wrong. People know something's broken. They know this isn't the way it's supposed to be, but they don't really know what to do about it. And I don't know that we have necessarily figured it out, but we have found what works for us, and they don't feel crazy when they come here and they get validation that no, it's not supposed to be this way. Things are broken, and you don't have to live the same way everybody else does. You don't have to necessarily chart your own path. The path has been charted. Christ has gone ahead of us and shown us the way to live our lives. What you eat and how you eat it and those kind of things, those are all ancillary. So anyways, that's a very short answer to your very brief question.
No, you guys are hitting it out of the park, and I feel it's such a joy. It's funny how this thing just kind of morphed into both of you. Now Mrs. Flannel's there along with Brian.
Yeah. For 18 years, I've been fooling her into joining me in things.
Well, clearly so. It clearly is working out for both of you, and I got to say, this has turned out to be. I think there's a lot of people out there, at least the ones that have reached out to me asking, "How do I do this?" We have limited means. We have a limited budget. I think seeing the two of you here and hearing some of the responses you gave, I think is going to be extremely, extremely helpful to so many people out there. So we're going to have to, like I said, I got pigs over there on that mountain to get to, man. And it's a shame. Hey, and speaking of festivals, remember, there is the Self-Reliance Festival next weekend, Camden, Tennessee. And based on what Brian was just talking a minute ago, one of the things that's going to happen there, you're going to see, Justin from Metcalf Mills is going to be kicking off his mill design, and that's going to be something. But also, in the heels of what Brian was just talking about, is I'm going to be, along with William, we're going to be processing another pig. That's something that you don't necessarily get to see at a lot of different conferences. But even if you do, let me just kind of point this out, because there's another one going on in South Carolina the following weekend. It does do you good, folks, to be able, I know we're doing it in the virtual realm right now, but we are all congregated right here, right now in this space. And it does your heart good to know that you feel less alone in this world, knowing that there's people like Brian and Mrs. Flannel out there, and all of you out there. And I'm seeing the comments in here. Sorry, I've not been good at getting to most of them, or really any of them for that matter. Yeah, there might have been one or two. Thank you so much to Old Crow's Homestead for pointing that out. Anyway, it does you good to be able to congregate, even for a little while, to be in a space like this, to be able to say, okay, I feel a little bit less alone in the world, at least for this hour that Brian and Miss Flannel are going to be on there with Billy. So, hey, you two, is there anything, we're coming to the end of this thing, is there anything you two want to leave everybody with? Any words of encouragement to all those people that are reaching out saying, I'm having a tough time? What can you leave them with?
Nope, you're screwed. Good night. No, I'm just kidding.
Encouraging.
Oh, right. Get rid of the facts. No, I'm just kidding. I would say if you find yourself in a position where you are able to put away things and store things, think about your family and your neighbors who aren't awake. Think about how you will be a help to them if you're not living, paycheck to paycheck. So I know there are some people that are watching right now that are very well prepared, probably more prepared than I am, in a great many things. They have the time, talent, skills. They've been doing this. This has been a way of life for them for decades. Don't turn into a vault, right? We need you. People like us need you. We need your expertise. We need your talent. But when things really, really go south, there are people who are going to need you to live. You are going to be like a focal point of society for them. So don't hoard that. Hold that with an open hand. And for those of you who are really struggling, and the eternal hope is the best hope. So if you don't know who Christ is, then he died on the cross to save you from your sins and offer you eternal life, raised from the dead on the third day. And through nothing of your own, he will save you. So that fixes eternity. That is the best hope I can offer you. Outside of that, make small choices, adjust your lifestyle, get out of debt, and stop the treadmill and stop thinking the way that other people have told you to think, because we are in many ways products of our environment. My parents raised me to be as debt-free as possible, and then I ended up having debt, because I was trying to do the right thing in economic forces, and it was very hard. But you can do it. I saw something, I don't know, 10 years ago, that it was a stupid little, meme that popped up that said, one day you'll wake up and it'll be Christmas morning and you'll be with your family and the kids will be opening Christmas and it'll be a good day. And I think that was the year that there was like $10 for Christmas, and you feel like a failure.
Longer than 10.
I don't remember now.
It came from
It's been so many years. But yeah, Christmas was from the dollar store and there was just nothing there. And I remember seeing that and wishing it would be true, and being on the other side of that now. You can. 10 years goes by real quick. And if you make good, sound financial decisions, you do the hard things now, you eat the rice and beans, you eat the oatmeal, you eat the off-brand stuff, you dump the streaming services, whatever it takes, it'll go faster than you think. It looks real slow. And we had 100 conversations where we would lay out, if we paid this one off and then we roll it into this one, and we would put ridiculous goals up. Like, there's no way we can pay this off in this amount of time. And we just slap it up there. And every time we would knock something, make it an achievable, visible goal, not in a name it, claim it, speak it kind of way. But if you don't know what you're aiming for, you'll never hit it. So make a tangible goal, and then make it untangible, and then crush it. And by the time you do that 2 or 3 times, I think when we paid our house off, I was like, dump it, dump the whole account, dump everything. And she's like, no.
That's when things happen.
We're not doing that. I'm like, no, we've had no money before. Forget it. Pay it off. Do it. And there have been a couple times where we've made that jump, and God's taken care of us. So I now have a career with health insurance and life insurance and all those things. And those are great, but that's no security. Our only security comes from above. So, but you can do it. You can. It can be done, even in these times, even with the market stupid, even with inflation and gas. You can change your lifestyle, you can change your habits, and you can get ahead. So when the next one hits, you'll be the one telling other people, you can do this. I was there, I've been there. And that's how encouragement is supposed to work. I think. Is that, did I do it right? Okay.
That was less blue.
Wow, it's been a real joy, man. A lot of people out here very much appreciating this conversation tonight. Hey, if you haven't already, y'all, get over there and subscribe to Flannel Farms. You'll be glad you did. Now, I think at this point, you know exactly why it was such a joy to have Brian and Mrs. Flannel on tonight. And it's been a real.
I can't tell. It's a secret.
Nothing's name wrong.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we do a live stream once a week also, where we talk about what we're doing on the homestead, but we try and offer encouragement, and we answer as many questions as we can. So I know, like you said, we blew through probably 300,000 questions tonight. So if you had a question about what we talked about tonight that is not necessarily for the permaculture pimp daddy. You're more than welcome to come over. And his homestead honey. That's his. Yep. And you're welcome to come over to our live stream next week and ask us. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
You got to come up with a flannel honey or something. I mean, you two are so awesome together. It's just a real joy. Yeah, you got to come up with something. And I haven't yet seen you in any videos yet, Mrs. Flannel. Did I just miss them?
She was in our garden tour. I roped her into one live stream, and then actually the last video I just did with keeping the pests out of the garden, I snuck. She was in the garden.
Some B-roll.
Yeah, B-roll footage. You know, had to learn a lot of things about the editing. You know. So.
Oh well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Smashing display, Brian and Mrs. Flannel, of course. All right. Hey, have a good one, y'all.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time.